This is Life with Psychic Suzanna on 1110 KFAB. Helping you find emotional, spiritual, and physical balance. What does your future hold? It's time to find out with Psychic Suzanna.
Yes, you are exactly where you need to be. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna on 1110 KFAB. This is your destination point. Every Sunday night at 7:30. This is the show that is going to empower you with ideas and thoughts that will take you from yesterday's limits into a tomorrow less burdened with your thoughts. I want you to join me on Facebook. It's Susanna Stickney on Facebook and Twitter. That's where you find out what I'm doing. I give out an intention every day that I'm working on. Yesterday, it was about giving a smile to a stranger and seeing if I could change their mood. Always, we have to work together to make the world a better place. One voice, one thought at a time. And that's what we need to do. Join me at PsychicSusanna.com, where you get all the shows and you get a free question. KFAB.com. That is where you get to hear everything you need to know about Omaha, the Nebraska territory. We covered all here on KFAB, national and international news too. So you really don't need to tune your radio to any other station. And right now we got the auction. So you go out and check how to save your money. I said last week I like to let my money sweat for me. I like it to work hard for me. So go to the KFAB auction. You're going to find some great deals there. And always stay tuned. We're right here for you Sunday night, every Sunday night. Okay, so right now we've had this gentleman on before. He goes by Eldon Taylor. Dr. Taylor is used to be a criminologist, and Dr. Taylor believes that true enlightenment can only come when you learn to take charge of your own thoughts. Can you state that your beliefs truly are your own, are not just adopted from the ideas that politically correct and mass approved? We had him on talking about mind programming. Today, we have him on talking about I believe. Welcome to the phones, Dr. Taylor.
Well, thank you very much. It's indeed my pleasure to join you, Psychic Suzanna. I had a blast last time. You're a great host, and you have a wonderful radio show.
Well, thank you. But let's talk about this book. I love it. I love the cover. What is that picture on the front page?
You know, it's a mandala.
I thought it was a mandala. And
there's quite a story behind it, Susanna.
Okay, tell me about it, because it's really phenomenal.
Yeah, Claire Ultima is the artist. She lives in New York. But here's the story. I want to make sure Claire gets credit. A friend of mine, Anthony Fedrigati, who is a publisher in Germany and has published my works there for over 20 years. And we have become very good friends, comes to the States at least once a year. And when he does, we always meet. And 3 years ago we met, and we were talking about world affairs. We were talking about, all of the angst and the animus and the threats and this whole ideation about an upcoming Armageddon.
Right.
2012, December 21st. All of this kind of stuff. And we, what is it that we could do? Just as two human beings, we do have a voice. He has a publishing company, and I'm a New York Times bestselling author, and so we do have a voice. What is it that we could do that might change the world? And we spent about 3 hours talking about this, and we came up with the idea that if we were to show the power of belief and then accompany that power of belief with an inner talk technology, which is the patented technology we talked about before, that would change how you talk to yourself. If we were to, if I were to write a book, we were to create a CD, he were to publish it in Germany and in other languages, we were to get it published here, the whole idea might be that we could convince people that through, as you said, one person at a time, we could change the world. So 3 years ago, we launched that idea, and then almost, serendipitously, it had to be that, I came across Claire's artwork. And what she was doing with her artwork was embedding phrases in the artwork.
Like, I believe in you.
Yes.
Sacred life. I love this.
That's right.
Yes.
So I asked her to take the affirmations that we used when we created this special CD that accompanies the book and embed them in a mandala, in a piece of art. And you're looking at it. That's the cover of the book. She did an absolutely beautiful job.
And you just sort of like to look at it and pick out the words that mean something to you, like connected. We're all connected to each other. Why can't we get that understood, Dr. Taylor? Good Lord.
Listen, one of my favorite authors is Og Mandino. And
I love him. And
he wrote, about 20 years ago, he wrote, "We are all, as the years pass, falling in step in order to march to the beat of the same drummer, racing forward or backward at the same pace as all others, smiling almost on command, mass-produced beings with no more individuality than any of the millions of saltine crackers that emerge daily from the ovens of Nabisco." Now, if you think about that for a second, especially with your setup piece, and then you ask your listening audience, what was your last truly original thought? That's when we get into understanding that, as you implied, so much of our lives come out of the media. Our ambitions, our goals, our thoughts, our bumper stickers, the sayings that we're spreading, the conversation that we'll have around the water fountain at work tomorrow or in the pub after work. All of that is how we rehash sound bites that we have taken in. And the worst part about that, well, it's all bad, but I happen to hear, of course, Community Matters. Is it segued into your show? And then I heard you, talk about, sound bites. Here's the real problem with that. I mean, first, it's terrible that that's the way we think, but we all want to hear what we want to hear. So we kind of channel ourselves, lock into a soundbite system, if you will. Susanna, the other day, because it's what I do, I was viewing, it's been 6 months ago or so now, I was viewing two stations, one a very conservative and one a very liberal station. And the same morning, within 2 minutes of each other, they were having, both of them, polls on the same subject. One station put that poll this way: should poor taxpayers be forced to pay for their children's education twice because our public education system is failing and they're having to put them through private schools? And the other station handled the same poll this way: should poor taxpayers be forced to pay for rich kids to go to private schools?
Right.
Now,
it is how you look at it. The question
is a school voucher, see?
Yeah.
And most people are going to go, well, no, they shouldn't be paying for rich kids, or, well, no, they shouldn't have to pay twice. But here's the point. If we are liberal-minded, hey, get away from me, I'd never watch Fox.
Yeah.
And if we're conservative-minded, MSNBC, that's not news, that's propaganda.
Right.
What we do is we plug into the channel that tells us what we want to hear, and it just continually reinforces it. So we don't go to Google, we don't go to the library, we don't look and see, where do school vouchers come from? Are they used anywhere in the world? How do they impact our public education system? Is it, who utilizes them? Where would the funding come from? Da-da-da-da-da. All of the things that we should do if we wanted to make an intelligent decision. Years ago, in the 50s.
We're going to stop you there.
Okay.
I need to take a break, but you're right. We look for people to match us in our same limited thought process.
Yeah. When we come back, let's talk about how the subconscious does that for you.
And how we can get out of it. Help me. I don't want to follow my limited back round, okay?
Gotcha.
So we're going to be right back with Dr. Eldon Taylor. He wrote a book called I Believe. It's going to help us understand what we believe and how it matters and how it limits us. By the way, he has an Inner Talk In Touch newsletter that is very good. You need to check it out at his website, which is eldontaylor.com. We'll be right back. This is
Life with Psychic Suzanna on 1110 KFAB.
You are exactly where you need to be. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna on 1110 KFAB. This is the place you come every Sunday night, and we give you information that is going to help you go into your tomorrow's less encumbered with yesterday's garbage. You know, if you carry yesterday's garbage into tomorrow, you smell up the day. So we're trying to get you to learn not to do that. Right now, our guest is one that I really enjoy. His name is Eldon Taylor. You can find him at eldontaylor.com. He wrote a book last time we interviewed him about mind programming. He tells us that our mind is what creates what we believe. He wrote another book called I Believe, and this is the one we're talking about now. By the way, the book has a CD in it for our mates who don't want to read can also listen to the CD. That's a great idea, Dr. Taylor.
Well, thank you. I love that metaphor. The garbage, bring it in, yesterday's garbage into the day or into the future. It just smells up today. I love that metaphor.
I tell that to clients at my appearances all the time, and it's amazing how people don't understand if you carry the past. And you're limited by your past because you're used to the garbage. Then you become used to the smell. And then they think you're a garbage collector.
Yep.
So they toss more garbage on you because you expect it. And then it's just a lousy way to live. But that's what I tell my clients. But let's talk about...
But that is very true, and that is a perfect introduction to where we left off.
Thank you.
That garbage is more than just what we think it is. I started to tell you this story, but back in the 50s, Benjamin Libet, a researcher, showed us using using a multicranial EEG, that we could see P300, a cortical evoked potential, from the unconscious before a conscious action. Now, that work was replicated over and over, and so there's a common understanding among neurologists and people that follow this science that the information that the conscious mind processes is first given to it by the unconscious. But in a recent study conducted in Germany using functional magnetic resonance imaging, where you watch the brain live time, we see the brain makes a decision up to 6 seconds before the conscious mind becomes aware of the decision. And now get this. That means that the neuroscientist watching the brain's activity could tell what you were going to do 6 seconds before you knew what you were going to do.
Okay, now, all right, explain that.
Okay, well, in this particular study, this is what happened. Subject, actually a professor himself who was, and there's a great video of this on YouTube, this actual experiment. But what he did is he was given 2 buttons to hold, one in his right hand, one in his left hand. He was then shown a computer image and had to decide whether to press the button on the right or press the button on the left based on the computer information. Now, all the time that he's looking at the computer and deciding, his brain activity is being monitored.
Right.
If he chooses something to the right, a certain area of the brain lights up, if you will, to use the words of PET and MRI people. That is, there's more oxygen, so we see more activity, okay? If he chooses the one on the left, we see the activity in a different area. All right, now, given that image, here's what happens. The stimulus is presented. He views it. He decides, okay, push the right. He pushes the right. But 6 seconds, up to 6 seconds, before he pushed the one on the right, the scientist watching the scan sees which side of the brain is excited, and therefore what his decision is going to be.
Wonderful. So
up to 6 seconds. Now, in some instances, on an average, I guess it's 2.5 to 3 seconds, but up to 6 seconds. Before we do anything consciously, the unconscious has decided it. Now, what does that really mean? What's that translate to? Well, the unconscious and the conscious are really one mind, and we really need to see it that way, not in a duality. But what it means is whatever I have in my unconscious, the sum total of my beliefs, however I have processed that information and accumulated. If I've got all the negative, no, don't stuff from my childhood, I'm too stupid, I'm too fat, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not handsome enough, I'm dumb. If I've got all of that kind of garbage in there, and then I sit down and I imbibe in the TV, where I'm going to get all these commercials that are repeatedly going to tell me how deficient I am.
Right.
Because if I'm not deficient, I'm not going to run out and buy anything. I mean,
right.
You can't sell a life jacket to somebody that doesn't think they might drown. So I'm going to completely be informed again and again of how deficient I am. If that's all the languaging I have in my subconscious, life sucks and then you die, go ahead and make my day, I don't get even, I get evener, and all that kind of, well, then guess what comes out? And I don't have any real free will at all, because I have programmed myself to respond in a certain way. And when that car cuts in front of me in 5 o'clock traffic, I hit my horn, I give that famous finger wag, I get all, adrenaline pumped up in my system, which doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form. I mean, the body basically has two budgets, one for growth and one for defense, analogous to a government. So the guy cuts you off at 5 o'clock and you get all upset about it, and what you did is just shut down the optimal operation of little things like your autonomic nervous system, your endocrine system, and your immune system,
Wow.
So if you want to live long and you want to live healthy and you want to be happy, you do have the ability to change the scripting and the programming. But people, Susanna, they don't understand how powerful belief is. You hear about placebos as a case in point.
Right.
Everybody, placebos, maybe 20-25%, I wonder, it's like a sugar pill. You got to really be stupid to believe in that. Well, I'll tell you what. It's a whole lot more than 20%. We have research that reaches out there into 75 and 80. We study placebos, and this is what we know. We can hand you a plain white pill, no insignia, initials, anything on it, like an aspirin. And it may be 20-25%, sometimes maybe 30%, but if we give you a capsule, it's more powerful. Now, if that capsule is larger, well, that's more powerful than a small one. If the capsule is really fancy colored, well, that's even more powerful. Now, if this capsule is fancy colored with initials in a fancy box, well, it's still even more powerful.
Okay, you got to stop making me give power to the outside of me. You're giving me power, making the outside more powerful than the inside. And you know what? I think
I'm not, but you have to be aware of it.
Yeah, and you know what I find? I find that most people don't know they do that.
No, you're right.
We don't know that we give our power to the doctor, to the nurse, to the neighbor. We don't realize we give our power to the limited thoughts of others. How do we get this back? I don't want to do it anymore.
Well, we get it back?
We're going to take a break. You're coming back with the answers of how do we get in control of our life again. And you say we can do that by changing our beliefs. And the book is called I Believe, When What You Believe Matters. He's going to tell us how to make our beliefs even better. This is Eldon Taylor, Dr. Eldon Taylor, New York Times bestseller author, and also author of Mind Programming. He's got a wonderful website. Welcome to eldontaylor.com. Go there. You'll see what all he has. He's got a lot going on. We'll be right back. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna. This is where you stay to grow past yesterday's limits. We'll be right back.
Life with Psychic Suzanna on 1110 KFAB.
You are where you need to be. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna, 1110 KFAB. Please always find us on PsychicSuzanna.com. You get a free question. You get my schedule. You get to know where I'm at, what I'm doing. Join me on Facebook, Psychic Suzanna. Life with Psychic Suzanna gives you an inside detail of who's going to be on the show. Susanna Stickney for Susanna Stickney on Facebook and Twitter. And then you can also join us at KFAB.com, the only place you need to go. This show is a good show, so you may want to go back and listen to it again. And if you do, the way you do that is you go to KFAB.com and they'll put it up. Scott puts it up on Tuesday. But did you know you could bet on Scott? Did you know you could own Scott? Did you see that, Jim?
We could own him? No, I did not.
For 1 hour.
On vacation.
For 1 hour. It's $100 bid on the auction online, and you could be in the studio with Scott. Is that exciting? Yeah. Okay. Well, we got to go back to Dr. Eldon Taylor, who wrote the book, I Believe, and he's telling us when what we believe matters. He's given us ideas of how our mind controls us. Dr. Taylor, I got to ask you before we go too much farther. We've only got about 3 minutes left. Can I keep you on after the news?
Sure, I'd love to stay with you.
Oh, I love that. All right, now, so tell us, with these limited thoughts, I don't want to believe things that are told me right away. How do I recognize I am? How do I recognize I'm letting the limited thoughts control me?
Well, the very first signal is to listen to how you talk to yourself. That's the very first thing. Mm-hmm. And it is a reliable indicator of what your true beliefs are. If you become conscious of your actions, of your words, and of your self-talk, as opposed, we think of that as being mindful, as opposed to mindless in the automatic nature of how you're doing things, only looking back at it in 20/20 hindsight to say, well, I wonder why I did that. If I become actively conscious, I begin to understand or discover things about myself. One of the ways that I demonstrate this quite often is, in a seminar, you can ask people to how many of them want to make $1 million as an example. How many of you would like to make $1 million this year? And every hand in the house will go up. Okay, understand that in order to make $1 million, you must believe you can make $1 million, because we're not talking about winning it by the lottery. You're going to go out there, you're going to go at risk, you're going to do something, some business venture, something that's legitimate and honest to make $1 million this year. So what I want you to do is say to yourself slowly and very meaningfully, this year I'm going to make $1 million, and then I want you to just sit with that thought for a minute and hear how you talk back to yourself. It only takes a minute or two, and people get back things like, what are you going to do, rob a bank?
Yeah.
How are you going to do that? I've heard this nonsense before. Mm-hmm. In other words, from the inside out, we don't believe what it is that we're attempting to affirm from the outside in.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You're going to be so proud of me. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Everybody who comes sees me in one of my appearances, I give them an affirmation.
Good.
And I say what's on the inside is the only thing you get on the outside. And I don't think people know how to talk nice to themselves.
They don't.
So when they don't know their affirmations, I slap their hands when they come back to see me. So aren't you proud of me? So
I am.
We're on the same thought. I'm talking to Dr. Eldon Taylor. Don't panic. Don't panic. He said he would stay around. I got to tell you, the mandala on the front of the book is worth the book and the CD. I'm interested. What You Believe Matters, I Believe, by Dr. Eldon Taylor, eldontaylor.com. He'll be right back and give us more answers. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna, the only place you need to be, Sunday night, 7:30. Yes, you are exactly where you need to be. This is the only place to be on Sunday night at 7:30. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna. We are the place you come to grow past yesterday's limit. You find us on KFAB every Sunday night at 7:30. You join us on Facebook, Life with Psychic Suzanna. You get to know who's coming up. I've told you about this gentleman. Also join me on Facebook and Twitter at Susanna Stickney. I send out one intention a day, telling you what I'm working on. Together, we're going to work on getting the world a better place. I held over our gentleman guest, Dr. Eldon Taylor. He wrote the book, I Believe When What You Believe Matters. The Mandela on the front of this book is an artwork that is really needed to be. And he's right here with us. I do want you to know that Dr. Taylor believes he in the absolutely unlimited potential of the human being. He openly admits to being both pragmatic and an eternal optimist. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Taylor.
Thank you very much.
All right, tell us how we can be better with the programming and challenge the programming we have.
Well, you know, the reason that I wrote this book addresses the answer to your question. Over 30 years, I have been studying why people do what they do, and it comes down to one common sole reason, and that's their belief. And you know, the problem with the beliefs is they're formed on less than solid foundations. Most of them are formed as a matter of how a duckling might be imprinted in a chicken yard, a matter of our enculturation, a matter of how we imbibe the media. And because that's, you know, what happens to us, we fail to recognize how powerful the beliefs are or how they interrelate to one another in a web. I mean, a complete web. I like this analogy because you can look at a spider web, and when you get in toward the center, it's very concentric, it's very geometrical, but as you get out toward the edges, well, it gets more fragmented. It nevertheless is so anchored that if you touch any part of it, all of it vibrates. And that's how our beliefs are. And people don't understand that because we can have a innocent enough belief about something that we wouldn't give any thought to, and yet that belief can sabotage our best efforts in some other area of our life. Let me give you a case in point. Years ago, when I was very young, I'll tell a story on myself. I wanted to be a singer. So my mother and father, you know, they watched Hit Parade, and I would watch it every week with them. It was a musical. I don't know if you remember it or not, Susanna, but it came on every Sunday night.
I think I'm too young. I'm sorry. I don't
Okay. Well, you know, we had it. It would have the top songs in the chart. And there was one called Vaya con Dios, and I learned the song, and I loved the song, and I sang the song over and over again, and everybody told me how great it was. You know, I mean, I wanted to be a Wayne Newton. I think I was all about 6 years old at the time, okay? So we're up in Wyoming, my family, at a family reunion. My father's side of the family, very blue-collar, loggers, law enforcement. My mother's side of the family, very white-collar. Business owners involved in law, etc. They didn't always see eye to eye, and there's a problem about to erupt, an argument. My mother decides the best way to solve that is to put me out in the middle of the floor with something like My Son Sings. Well, with all these adults, austere as they were, it just terrified me. My voice broke up. I ran out of the room crying, and I guarantee you I made a conscious decision. I am not going to be a singer. That is it with singing. I am through singing. I might hum, but I'm never singing. Now fast forward.
Right.
We get into my life. I'm doing research. I'm discovering all these things about how the mind works and how it limits people, how they get caught, just blindsided by their own belief systems. And a friend of mine, University of Utah, chair of the honors department, chair of the chemistry department, director of the honors department, William Guillory, says to me, Eldon, would you come in and share your findings, your work with our honors group? I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to, Bill. Where are you meeting? He said, Kingsbury Hall. Well, now Kingsbury Hall seated 1,200 people or so. So why Kingsbury Hall? Because honors groups are small. You know, you might only have 10 students in it. And he says, Black Chemists of America are in town. You know, all 800 of them, and I'm president of Black Chemists. I'd like them to attend, too. Well, I'll tell you what, there's a huge difference between we're filling Kingsbury Hall with PhDs,
right.
800 of them or so.
Right.
My stomach hit the ground. I couldn't tell you why, but I was terrified. Now, on the day I was to make the presentation, because I'd agreed to do it, I drove there, but I couldn't go in. So I took my coat off, threw it on the seat of my car, took my long-sleeve white shirt, and rubbed it literally intentionally around my tire so I could support a story that I had a flat tire. Sorry I couldn't be there. Now get this.
Yeah?
As serendipity would have it, not long after that, an entertainer asked me for a program to deal with stage fright, performance anxiety. So I did all the profile work. I created this program. I happened to finish it on a Friday evening. I decided I wanted to, quality check it before we shipped it on a Monday. So I grabbed it. I grabbed my cassette player, and I had reservations in southern Utah. I drove down to southern Utah, got in my cabin in Zions, checked in, and I put on this tape with a cassette. It was quite late. I laid back on the bed, started to read some paperwork. I fell asleep. And what happened is I had a dream, and the dream revivified completely the experience of my mother sticking me out in the middle of the floor, something I had forgotten for 30 years.
Wow.
Okay? Now, the affirmations on that program triggered recovering that dream, so that all of a sudden I knew why I was terrified of public speaking. If I hadn't have discovered that, by the way, you and I wouldn't be talking right now.
Wow.
Because once you have that kind of an uncovering, it's kind of like a boogeyman in your bedroom when you're a child,
right.
and you call mom or dad, they turn on the light, and then you see it's how you threw your pants over a chair or on the door in a closet or something. They can close the door, turn off the light, it's still there. It's the same image, but you know what it is, so it's lost a lot of its power. Well, that's how all these beliefs tie together. So this one silly defense strategy that I had built as a 6-year-old was sabotaging my career until I actually uncovered it.
And looked at it clearly.
That's right. And that's how our beliefs all tie together.
So actually it is going inside, finding where the belief started, and then you can change the belief? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, well, you can desensitize them, you can uncover them. I give you many ways in my book for you to have the epiphanies, to consciously choose them. We become conscious of our thinking and our thoughts. And, you've been telling everybody, if they go to my website, we have a special promotion on the book right now. Mm-hmm. There are hundreds of gifts there that are free. You get the book. Now, the big launch on it was Tuesday of last week. It's already an international bestseller.
Marvelous.
We think it might make the New York Times, but it's because of people like Lindsay Wagner, who says, I believe is one of those special books to be experienced and contemplated, not just read and the information recorded. Enjoy the journey I did. Lindsay Wagner,
mm-hmm.
James Von Prague, John Gray,
all we have
Larry
to do
Dossey.
is go to eldontaylor.com, and we will find all the information. I like your monthly newsletter, too. I think that's pretty helpful, where you're always giving us the cutting-edge thought and provoking articles. Everything that you give us is supportive to our mind and to letting go of our past. I want to thank you for being on with us, Eldon. And I love the fact that you were on George Norrie, but you topped it off with being on me, which is really where it all begins and ends, Eldon.
I love being on your show, okay?
George Norrie has a great show. It airs every week here on KFAB, so you can maybe go back to his website, listen to the show there, but always check us at KFAB. You're going to hear this show online by Tuesday. Scott will get it up there, and listen to it, because Eldon, you are a wonderful teacher. Thank you for being on the show. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna. You check out eldontaylor.com. Promotion on the book. You got to see the Mandela, if nothing else. Thank you again for being with us.
Oh, thank you.